thank you all for having me here tonight. Raise your hand if you are familiar with Prop 13. Most folks are. For those of you who don't know, Prop 13 was passed back in 1978, and it was meant to protect homeowners. It was meant to keep property taxes down from rising property prices. It was actually meant to protect large commercial property owners in California. And it was written by commercial property owners. And what we've seen in the last 37 years now is that it's actually benefited these large commercial property owners the most. So I'm going to talk about our campaign, what we've been doing over the last 2 years, what we hope to accomplish over the next 2 years, and definitely I'm here to take any questions that anyone has. I'm the campaign director for an organization called Evolve. We are a grassroots nonprofit that is based in the Mission. We were founded in 2011 around the idea that we need to increase funding for our public schools. We're 49th in the nation in education funding, and that needs to change. So we worked in 2012 on Proposition 30, which those of you might remember, Proposition 30 was Governor Brown's measure to increase income and sales taxes to go to our public schools. And we were happy when that passed. We were excited about that. That's definitely a step in the right direction. But we're still at the bottom in education funding. And now we're having the discussion, some of you might know, about should we extend this or not? Governor Brown has come out and said, no, it's a temporary tax increase. And to us, that's crazy. It's like, well, what are we going to do now? And we decided to take on Prop 13, which is known as the third rail of California politics, because we realized everything that we've been doing, working on as progressives for not just education, but other revenue issues to increase funding for anything that we all care about, they're all just workarounds of Prop 13. And so we decided someone needs to take on this issue. Someone needs to say, no, this doesn't make sense. This is something that, if messaged correctly to voters, people will understand that Prop 13 does need to be changed. So we're focused on reforming Prop 13, not getting rid of all of it. I'm sure some of you out there might want to get rid of the whole thing, but we have to sort of take one step at a time. And so we're focused on specifically the non-residential commercial aspect of Prop 13. So Prop 13 holds property taxes down and bases your property tax on the year that you purchased your property. So if you purchased your property in 1978, which is when Prop 13 passed, your property taxes are still based on the value of your property in 1978. So it makes sense for homeowners. This is why it's popular. This is why people like it, because if you've been in your home for a long time, you have relatively low property taxes compared to someone who just purchased their home recently. However, what about commercial properties, right? Homes change hands on average every 10 years here in California, but commercial properties rarely, if ever, change hands. And so a lot of commercial property owners who have had their properties for quite some time now are still benefiting from very low property tax rates. I want to take a moment to pass out some of these cards. If you can just pass those back, that'd be great. Thank you. A perfect example is Disneyland, right? The Walt Disney Corporation has had their property since before Prop 13 passed, and so they're still paying property taxes based on 1975 levels of property taxes. And so what this means is they're paying roughly 5 cents a square foot for their property, some of the most valuable land that we have in California. And unless they choose to move to some other property and sell their property, they will always be locked into this 1975 level tax rate because of Prop 13. And that's what we're looking to change, right? That's something that doesn't make sense. That's not fair any way you slice it. That is not what Prop 13 was meant to do. The whole idea behind Prop 13 is that it was meant to protect people, right? And so our campaign is saying it should remain in place to protect people, but not corporations. Because I'm sure we all in this room can agree at least corporations aren't people. So we have been working for the last 2 years to raise awareness about this issue, to really remove obstacles that we've seen have been in the way of people not talking about this issue. The first thing we did in the spring of 2013 is we worked to reach out to local Democratic Central Committees and have them pass resolutions in support of reforming Prop 13. This is also referred to as split roll, some of you might know. That's the policy that we're supporting. It's a split roll of keeping Prop 13 for residential properties, but eliminating them for commercial properties. So we got about 15 Democratic Central Committees to pass this resolution in 2013 in the run-up to the 2013 Democratic Convention. And then at the convention, we got the Democratic Party, for the first time in history, to go on record and pass a resolution of their own supporting Prop 13 reform. So this is great. We were excited about this. It made headlines. It showed that the grassroots of the Democratic Party in California, the 3,000 delegates there, overwhelmingly support this idea. And so what we realized was that's about as high as we can go in Sacramento right now, right? In terms, they weren't ready to talk about it any further than the party endorsing this. So we decided to reach out to local elected bodies across the state. We started with school boards, and we asked school boards to pass resolutions supporting Prop 13. Then we reached out to city councils and asked city councils to pass a resolution supporting reforming the commercial aspect of Prop 13. And we did this for a few reasons. One, because when these are passed, it raises awareness in the area that they're passed. But two, we also wanted to show that this doesn't have to be the third rail, that we can get elected officials in California, California politicians, we can get them to actually cast a public vote supporting what we believe is a common sense reform. So we now have over 100 school boards and city councils from San Diego all the way up to Eureka, who have all gone on record saying, yes, it's finally time to do something about Prop 13. We also, in the last election cycle, sent out candidate questionnaires to all the candidates running for federal, local, and statewide office. And we asked them point blank, do you support the regular reassessment of non-residential commercial property? And we got a lot of great responses. So not all of them won, but so far, because of our work with the resolutions and the candidate questionnaire, we have over 700 elected officials now that are listed on our website from all across the state that have now publicly said, yes, this is something that we think we should do. So we're excited about the progress we've made. We think it's very important. It's all based in the idea that if you start talking about an issue, that if you learn how to message it with folks, that it doesn't have to be so scary to folks. And then when you actually reach out to all of these local elected bodies, school boards, city council people that understand how much their budgets have been cut, the folks that are really feeling it, they're willing to say, yeah, this is something we need to take a second look at. So now we're working to get a bill introduced in the state legislature. We should have one introduced by the end of the month. We're still working out the specific language and the specific sponsors of the bill, but by the end of the month we should have something, which will be great. This will be the first time ever that there was a bill coming out of the state legislature talking about reforming Prop 13. And this is really, again, important because it draws attention to the issue. It'll bring media attention to the issue. More folks who haven't been living in California as long or don't remember Prop 13, who don't know anything about it, they'll hear that it's actually has a lot of loopholes, a lot of corporate loopholes, and it's actually one of the main reasons why we don't have enough money to fund our schools and our public services. So we know that to get a bill passed, because one of the things about Prop 13 is it means you have to have 2/3 supermajority to pass bills like this. We don't have that 2/3 supermajority right now in the state legislature. But we know, though, that this is an important thing to organize around. It's an important thing to raise awareness about. So if this doesn't pass, it's still positive. We've still got a lot of people aware of this fact now. And then the next step is to collect signatures to put this on the ballot. And depending how the campaign goes, depending if all the stars align and how it looks like, we could see this happening in 2016, which we're very excited about. So we have about 13,000 members all across the Bay Area that support our work. We obviously don't get any support from corporations. We obviously don't have any grants or anything like that either. It's all from individuals who believe that we should prioritize our schools and our public services over tax breaks for corporations. One of our goals that we want to have is to establish an office in Southern California by the end of the year. We've done a lot of work down there. We've got the LA City Council to pass our resolution. We've got many others down in that area, which are really important because that's where the people are. That's where the majority of the voters are. So that's something we need to do, and that's our priority this year. And we could only do that with the help of individuals. So I encourage all of you who support this to go to our website, check it out, sign our petition to Governor Brown and the state legislature urging them to pass a bill supporting regular reassessment of non-residential commercial property. And if you can, if you're able, chip in a donation to our campaign, because that's how we're able to continue this work. We've come a long way. We've come further on this issue than ever before in the last 37 years. And we're close. We see demographic shift. We see, even though it was short-lived, the first time in 120 years the Democrats had a supermajority in the state legislature, we see, unfortunately, it being so bad out there for so many people willing to say, okay, what can we do about this? We also see a system, and this is what we think we have a different way to talk about this issue than before. It's not exclusively about raising revenue, right? That is the most important thing, and that's what we need to do, but it's also about tax fairness. It's about, because we don't have this reliable, stable income coming in every single year from property taxes that every other state has, we now have the highest income tax in the country. We have the highest sales tax in the country. And every year, it seems, we're being asked to pay more and more in the form of parcel tax or a special fee or meters on Sunday. All of these things didn't used to exist. And we're having to pay more and more, working families, individuals, folks that can least afford it, because we aren't making the Disneylands of the world pay their fair share. Now, Chevron alone is saving nearly $1 billion a year from Prop 13.
Yeah, I mean, you're being really kind calling commercial properties. I mean, Clorox, Chevron, Bank of America, all those people are paying 1978. And they are making transactions, but they're restructuring their corporate so that it doesn't appear that they're transferring the property, but it is changing hands, and they fight with San Francisco all the time.
Oh, yeah.
That property still is protected under 1978.
Oh, because of Prop 13, they're able to do so many things, so many loopholes. You bring up a great point. If you were a corporation, you can sell your property, but if you split up the property so no one person or entity owns more than 50% of it, that's not actually considered a sale, and so your property taxes aren't reassessed. And again, this is something that only a commercial property owner could do.
And they're exempt from all those special assessments. Every time we get assessed for a bond and stuff, it's just the homeowners who are paying that, and corporations are exempt from most of those.
Well, exactly, and I don't know if any of you have folks in your life that wouldn't be supportive of this, but you should really talk to them about it. On the back of that card, it shows that 72% of the property taxes are being paid by homeowners, while only 28% are being paid by commercial property owners. Now, how is that possible if we pass this to protect homeowners? So anyway, thank you all for having me.
Are there any questions?
Please.
I just wanted to say, as one of the candidates that got your questionnaire, I was like, really loved it, because it had like a couple of questions on there, and one of them was, do you support split roll? And I'm like, yeah. So that was nice. But I wanted to mention something. I went to school in 1978 at UC Berkeley. I'm going to date myself now. And I had so much more support than my students do now at San Francisco State and students do at City College, because it was before, that happened right then, 1978. And I remember being at UC Berkeley thinking, oh, this will never pass. And then going to LA and like, we're screwed. But students now, so young people now don't know that there's been any different way. How are you going to get that message out?
Right, it's a great question. You bring up a great point, is, the K through 12 education is something that, we're drastically underfunding, but our higher education is a disaster. I'm sure you're familiar with what's going on with the UC Board of Regents now, and they want to increase tuition by 5%. That's crazy, right? And that's how we think we can talk to younger generations about this issue, is it doesn't have to be this way, right? This is just more fee hikes and more this and more that. It's like, well, it's because we're the only state in the country that doesn't make Chevron pay its fair share. And that's something where we think we really have an avenue. Because again, like I said, unfortunately things have gotten so bad for so many folks. Okay.
Yeah, but is there really enough revenue to come from the large property owners that you're talking about to cover these debts?
No, I think, to be clear, we think this is the most important thing that we could do right now for the future of California. This is the most reliable revenue, this is the most stable revenue, this is the most fair way to provide revenue to all the things that we care about. And it provides the most. It's not the end all and be all of everything. We still are gonna need to make changes. We still need more revenue from other sources. But this is something where we see, like if we wanna make, if we can make one change about California right now, it will be to change the commercial side of Prop 13. Please.
Thank you. Just
I
the last
love this
question.
card. It's
Oh, thanks.
really well done. It just, you know, the graphic and the information on the front is just fabulous. It's a good job. And on the back, it's really good too. But a suggestion, wasn't it around 50-50 back in 1978?
It was much
And
closer.
so it might be good to point that out, you know, rather than just say that 72-28.
That's
So people really, somehow, I mean, you can't work it into this graphic, but somehow.
to show people where it is,
folks
yes.
can know what a sea change this has been.
Yeah, yeah. And we're working right now with, on like a statewide mapping project that maps out and shows different properties and how much they're paying. I mean, it's an intensive process. This is something where it's like you gotta go through data, all this data from all the different counties, but really to show, I mean, not just Disneyland or not just Chevron, but all these other places that should be paying $2 million more in property taxes here, $2 million more there. We have graphs per county that show, in some counties, it used to be more, not 50-50, commercial properties are paying the brunt of it, and now it's completely different. San Mateo County, it's 81% now residential, only 19 commercial, right? So there's a lot of great graphics and things that we definitely want to get out there. Thank you.
$1 million to buy a house
Yeah,
I've been feeling it
yeah.
for a long
Okay,
time.
this will have to be the last question.
It's not a
I've had my
question,
hand
I've
up
just
for a
been
while.
trying for a long time that this country's becoming
I had my
more
hand
and
up
more
before she
get
spoke.
richer and have to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, Terry had her hand
That
up.
was the last statement. This is the last question.
Great.
I seem to remember Phil Ting, about 3 or 4 years ago, starting an organization to address the loopholes in Prop 13. Whatever happened to that?
Yeah, so,
Is there
Same
anything
thing.
else about it after a
Oops.
while?
right, so he got elected to the assembly. So that kind of
When he started.
right. So I think he actually started that when he was running for mayor. Is what I remember. And so actually he's someone that we've been talking to about this, and he's someone that could sponsor this on the assembly side. So yeah, definitely working with Phil Ting, because there are so few folks that have actually been out there on the front line saying this has been a problem from the beginning. So we appreciate, we need more people like Phil Ting. So anyway, thank you all. Check out our website, please.
Okay.